And welcome to Jimbo's Round the World trip. Lovely, comfortable trip. Went from Australia to US in the United. See that bump above the United name? Well, that's where I was. Was comfortable because of the beds that you could make up out of the seats. The only way to travel, business class if you're going any distance, 16, 17 hours I guess it was. And you could really stretch full out and have a nice, relaxing, comfortable time. I actually arrived in San Francisco in pretty fair shape. That's my room. Outlook over the bay, San Francisco Bay. Nice, and we weren't all that far from Land's End, which is where you look out over across the ocean towards Australia. So I felt some connection there. The cable cars in LA are certainly a tourist attraction. Have a look at the queue. Well, I had to wait for about 2.5 hours in the queue to get on the cable car. But while there, I was talking with two ladies from Green Bay, who it turns out, Barb and Kerry, who turned out to be breast surgeons. And I got some fascinating insights into that. Another mate of mine, and we became good friends after he took the handcuffs off. Accommodation, or the residence, the living places in San Francisco, not many yards. There are some, but mainly it's all units. Like I guess you see in the TV. It's a fairly laid-back kind of place. Bit of hustle and bustle here and there, but overall, there's some inner city, close to the city units. That's the Painted Ladies, very famous tourist attraction, evidently. Some really nice places, but not much in the way of yards. It'd drive me bonkers. Of course, you recognise that. I went over that on a push bike from about 4k away, hired one on Pier 39 or 31, whatever it is. But it's a great, a wonderful, it's an icon, isn't it? Terrific outlooks from up on as you're going across. And wonderful Kevin Rudd selfie. Look at this lady. Gee, I thought it was, anyway, Alcatraz is one of the major, perhaps the major tourist attraction in the San Francisco area. There's thousands of people go there. I can't understand why. Have a look at the sign. Indians welcome in the penitentiary. Back in the harbour, sea lions, or what are they? They're not dolphins anyway. Nice place, San Francisco. Of course, had to go to the hippie Haight-Ashbury area and have a look at the cannabis company. Sells legal drugs. There's some growing. See the pots. They're genuine pot plants. Here we are now in Vancouver. Lovely place, beautiful place, right on the water. Streets are clean, everything about it. Lovely gardens. They're everywhere. That's one of the city streets, believe it or not. They're just superb gardens. This is Bev and Nigel. They very kindly showed me around the south of Vancouver. And Bev, believe it or not, is the sister of a supposed mate of mine from West Australia, Graham Bourne. But she's really nice, so totally opposite to him. That's Nigel, the husband. And then I went on a guided tour up to Whistler. That's Whistler. And unbeknown to me, the tour included going up in a gondola. That's the first one, and then that one that you just saw there is the second one. And it's amazingly high up. A spectacular outlook if you can open your eyes to see. That's Whistler down the bottom there. The rather worried look on my face is because, look where you got to go, behind me there. It is the longest unsupported span in the world. Here's where I'm almost at the bottom. Have a look at the difference. So I was happy. Well, I was. Yeah. Actually, I was pretty pleased how I handled the heights. That's a walking path, a sample of the walking paths up the top of Whistler. Man, hard work. They go for miles. Anyway, left Vancouver, headed over to New York and Long Island, to Wantor, actually, which is where Carol and Jim live. Carol was Julie's pen pal from probably about grade 5, 6, something like that. And they corresponded for years and years until maybe 10, 12 years ago, they lost touch. That's Carol, that's Jim. And this is the school that Carol was going to when Julie first started writing to her. This is a letter that Carol gave me about a dozen letters that she'd kept from Jules. This is from May 1960 when Julie lived at Richmond. And she tells in that letter about the concert that she went to with the Everly Brothers, Crash Craddock, Bobby Rydell and so forth. Here's another, that's when she was 15. Here's one when she was 17. And she was just telling Carol about this boy that she'd met. She said, I'm not going with John anymore. I'm going with a boy named Jim MacDonald. He works at the same place my sister and I do. He is down here in Melbourne from Queensland for 2 years. And he's terrific fun to be with. And he wears fantastic clothes. In all, he is a darling, she says. And if only she could have been in that photo, she'd love to have met with Carol and Jim too. Now, I'm a very interesting conversationalist because I'm talking and you can see Carol and Jim, how interested they are. We had a lovely dinner, family dinner, and that's a shot of Carol and Jim's son and granddaughter, his daughter. And here's Jim fixing up our traditional gin and tonic, and Carol's getting the pistachios ready. Upstairs is where I stayed. Jim built it all himself. Wonderful place. And a great sunroom that he's put on and backs onto the garden, and he's a fabulous gardener. Boy, we drove all over Long Island and right up to the tip was Krabby Jerry's, where we had lunch at one stage. Jim hates beer, and he can't wait till he's had so much he can't drink anymore. Got to admire him, don't you? Now, just near where Jim and Carol live is the Bethpage State Park, which is where one of the major tournaments was played. Oops, we've now taken a trip across the briny over to England. There's Little Ben, amongst other places. I would have been afraid of being there in years gone by. Have a look at this. This is the Tower Bridge Castle, entry to the Traitors' Gate. So they rode him in underneath the tower so nobody had to see him. That's Nelson's Column, and I don't know what the devil that blue thing is, but the time I was there were the two worst weeks of traffic London has ever experienced, they tell me. It was hard to get round. I think that's the access to 10 Downing Street, but you couldn't get in, of course. And you always love seeing an Aussie flag, and that's the flag on the house, Australian house. Here's the people I stayed with, Terry and Jean Mankins, a lovely couple. Terry I used to know from Ayr High School. We met again over the internet. And this is Terry's castle, his home, in Watford. No, not that. No, that's part of Windsor Castle, which is the Queen's little weekender. Another mate of mine with an AK-47 or whatever. Very interesting people, these. Who's that? Oh, goodness me, how did he get there? Was a crooked man with a crooked little house, and that's Terry pushing the crooked little house. And that, before I went there, that was the Windsor Hotel. And they still do wear those bobby helmets over there. This is St Pancras, King's Cross, I think it is, station. And that's the fabulous Eurostar, which really moves along. Nice, comfortable seats and acceptable meals, I guess you'd say. And they fly. I was typing an email to the girls and I said, we're doing 130k. And I asked the guard, and he said, no, it's 297k. And there's the Gare du Nord, Paris, that's French. I'll show you just now a few shots of French streets and buildings. You know, they're all ornate and all that sort of stuff, mainly because I don't know can't think of the names of them all. But there's a lot of those five-way things in France. A lot of them. I mean, every second place you come to is one of those five ways. This is down the Champs-Élysées, or in French that's the Champs-Élysées, to the Arc de Triomphe, or Arc of Triumph. That's a bit of scaffolding, you're probably thinking, and you're right, a bit of rough scaffolding in fact. It happens to be the Eiffel Tower, and it's it's a landmark. Nothing really, I didn't think all that spectacular about it, apart from at night. It really did look something. It used to be so tall, but now, with other buildings up as high as they are, it's not a skyscraper. You don't get skyscraper views, but still, you still get attractive views, not arguing that. And there are some lovely places around Paris, but particularly, that's park. They park, see the other corner too? People just park cars anywhere, and the gendarmerie don't seem to be at all. That black car there is parked, and the gendarmes come by and don't seem to worry about it. I don't know. But anyway, and this is Rosario. That's the lady I met in a cafe or a coffee shop in Paris. She was a lovely Mexican girl, 27 years of age. On the sidewalks, they just jam people in. Probably offensive for me to say this, but Paris is just a tourist rip-off, in my view. They die without the tourists, but they treat them disrespectfully. But I will say, a brilliant part of Paris is the creek, the Seine. It's just the bridges over the Seine are just, I think they're the highlight of the whole place. Actually, we'll sit back and relax and enjoy a few of the bridges. Some incredibly ornate, some just just common little affairs. But there was one, and this is it, that really took me. From a distance, it looks as though it has gold sides, but when you get up closer, it's just hundreds and probably millions of padlocks on the side of the bridge. And the idea is that you go to the bridge and click a padlock on there, and you have a message, and as long as the lock stays locked, then you and your love will remain together. Lovely. And here's the overnighter from Paris to Venice. Talk about a rip-off. Did I get ripped off here? A couple of $100 they scammed me out of on the overnight trip there. But anyway, I ended up getting a single cabin, which you just saw there before. And on this train, I arrived in Venice, which is, I found, quite an attractive, very, obviously it's unusual because it's built on water. But I thought that the people, a lot of tourists, but the locals are a rather strange breed. I mean, the place is sinking, literally sinking into the river, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. And I understand it's only got 5-7 years, and it's going to be all hell to pay. But anyway, they get round by the river, by the water, and they transport all their goods. There's some there. They unload them off the boats and then onto trolleys. They drag these trolleys around the streets, and that's how they replenish the supplies. Again, a mecca for tourists and some wonderful places to see. I actually found Venice quite an appealing place. That's my hotel, the Florida Hotel, in just a little alleyway. And there were 2 hand basins, look at that, as well as a toilet. I went to Siena, which is in Tuscany somewhere. That's the fortress wall surrounding the Tuscany. They used to have a big battle against Florence, and Siena were the losers. There's some spectacular old buildings, but the emphasis is on the old. They have a horse race around the streets of this once a year, which is evidently very famous. But as I say, Siena lost the battle against Florence, and Florence is very beautifully restored. Siena's, I guess, patchily restored. That's one of the piazzas or market squares. It's an American couple who were riding bikes around Italy. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Nice countryside, some lovely homes, farms, greenery, all that. Actually, a lovely countryside around the Tuscany area. Wouldn't mind going and staying in there for a week or so. And that's the entrance way to my hotel in Florence. I got there and couldn't find it. That was actually a street, that little place. And it was a very elaborate room, and they treated us so wonderfully, or me, so wonderfully well. Nice enough place, Florence, but I'd really had my fill of cities by the time I'd got to Italy, because for the most part, look how they're paying a lot of attention to me, aren't they? That's that's my first class. I got scammed there. That was a first class train, and it wasn't. It wasn't a first class train at all. But they made me pay for a first class train. Anyway, arrived in Switzerland, beg your pardon, and went on the Berliner Express from Tirano to Chur, Chur, which is Chur. But it was a wonderful, wonderful trip, and the scenery in Switzerland is, it's breathtaking. It's almost as though it's manufactured. It's so incredibly beautiful. A bit, there's, I don't know how to describe it. It's maybe too perfect. There's a glacier. That's a fair income glacier. Yeah, and it's actually, they say you can see it moving if you're prepared to stand and watch. Very comfortable train, and wonderful outlooks, and lovely. The creeks are all fresh and clean and clear, and the mountain air is clean and crisp and clear. And I'd say if you do go to Switzerland, it's well worthwhile going on this trip through the mountains. From memory, I think it lasts about 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that. But it is something well worthwhile seeing. They are quaint. So the houses or buildings. And there's a two-storey train that I went from somewhere to Zurich in. Typical Swiss. This is around Zurich now, but as I said, I was finished with touring by this time. I've been to cities that never closed down. New York to Paris, not Rio, old London town. But no matter how far or how wide I roam, I love my welcome home. It's good to be traveling, would be better for me if I were a politician and got my trips for free. But I'm not, so I don't travel much over the phone. Mostly I stay at home.
I've been to cities that never close down, from New York to Paris, not Rio, an old London town. But no matter how far or how wide I roam, I love my welcome home. It's good to be traveling, it's good to be free, but no one will pay my fares for me, so I don't travel often. We're over the phone, mostly I stay